Hello, Purple Heart Consciousness holders, Seed FM ambassadors, and our Seed FM emissaries of light. I am saying hello to everyone on our social network platform. It is Mother's Day and it is Sunday. So we're going to get our boost today and we're going to celebrate and dedicate this piece to all the mothers. I'm just going to say all the parenting figures out in the world. And the reason I say all the parenting figures is I'm just acknowledging everyone. There are some people that have dual roles. And when I say dual roles, I also like to acknowledge those fathers that are mother fathers or father mothers. And then we have those that are mother fathers. They embrace both roles in terms of supporting and loving and nurturing our most precious and our most valuable gifts, and that is our offsprings. What I believe is that the universe has charged us as humans, as part of this thing we call humanity, and it has charged us for the care of each other. And so, if you are a parent, we're honoring you. And for those that say, well, this really doesn't apply to me because I'm not a parent, I'm going to say you are a parenting figure. And the reason you're a parenting figure is you're part of humanity. And humanity right now, I'm going to say, is calling us to be the best that we can be and to mirror the best for all that are coming forward and those that are here right now. So with that said in mind, I can go off on my tangents. I'm going to introduce our leadership today. So I'm going to start off, and I want to start off with Catherine, and I'm going to invite her to say hello to everyone. Did you notice how I said Catherine? I was trying to allow that to roll off my tongue. It would be the way Greg would do it, or I remember back in the day, Trish would do that very nicely. So I'm acknowledging that.
Yes. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday extravaganza, because that's what we do. And we just never have a moment that isn't precious. And I just want to remind everybody that we have many things available to you. So please visit our website at cfm.org and find out all the goings on we're doing, because we've got a lot coming up this month.
Wonderful. Yes, we do. We do have a lot that's coming up. And I'm sure you're going to want to be a part of it. It's going to be so, so good. I promise. And I'm going to introduce, and we're going to come back to you, Catherine. Okay. I want to introduce now, I'm going to call her the elder in the group, and that is our Patty Walton.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Mother's Day. And I'm so happy to be here with you.
And we're grateful that you are here with us too. And for those that have practiced the stay home, we thank you. I'm going to say thank you on behalf of our wonderful family, and thank you for sheltering in place. It has made a difference. And like I said, Patty, we're a little selfish with. We want to keep her around and her wisdom with us for as long as possible. We know her wisdom will last forever and ever, but we really love being with her in this incarnation, in this human experience. Thank you. I'm going to come back to you, Patty. And what I'm going to do now is I want to introduce you to someone very, very important. And the reason is, I just want to say this is almost like, we're celebrating Mother's Day. And for me, I have so many Mother's Day things gushing around. And one of the things we say, it takes a village to raise a child. I feel like we are a village, and part of our work is to raise each other. So for us, it feels like we have a new member of our family. It's almost like we got a brand new baby, and we're so excited. And I bet you this person is going to be really, it's going to be say, what? But for us, it feels that way. And so, what I want to introduce you to is the newest member to our leadership team, and also one of our practitioners. And you're going to be hearing a lot from this person coming soon. His name is Jim Thompson. And here we are, Jim. Do you want to say hello to everyone?
Well, good morning, Reverend Jerry, and everyone, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there and to all the fathers who double duty and act as mother and father and all that kind of good stuff. And if you take anything away from today, I would just highly challenge you to take care of yourself. Take really good care of yourself today, and absolutely allow yourself to be in the moment and to be in this space and to enjoy all the love that I know oozes out of these little services. And you're right, Catherine, there's a lot of stuff coming up. So please hop in and take a ride with us.
Yes, 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 yes. So we are happy to be with you today. And as we are happy to be with you today, we are going to get started with our sharing. And there's a lot of wonderful sharing that we have to share with you today. And we're going to engage in spiritual practice because we believe there is value in spiritual practice. And one of the greatest things I'm going to say of parenting is the nurturing of our beloveds and the care, because that's exactly what we're celebrating right now. So our theme is listening with our hearts. And for me, this takes me all the way back in so many different ways. But I remember many years ago, we used to go to camp and we'd end the evening with a special song. And the song would be, listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will always love you. Forgive me, I'm a little hoarse this morning. I will never forsake you. I will always love you. I will never forsake you. That is the inner call to spirit. And spirit is always revealing itself. So what I want to do now is I'm going to listen to, I believe Catherine has a special reading for us this morning.
Yes, this one is from 365 Days of Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. And our Bible quote for the morning is, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. And the reading is, there is only one power and one presence of God, the good, all-powerful, and ever-present. I am an individualized part of the universal presence and one with this universal power. I am a perfect expression of perfect life now, and everything necessary for the fullness of that expression comes to me. Today, I definitely claim as my inheritance life, love, peace, joy, power, and abundance of all good. Running through me is the silent power of spiritual wisdom, harmoniously directing my thoughts and actions. I am surrounded by an atmosphere of love, and I am guided and governed by the impulse of love. This love casts out all fear, for fear cannot abide in the same household with love. I fill my consciousness with a sense of the law of God until my whole being is flooded with it. It blesses me, heals me, guides me, and sustains me forever. The life of God is my life, self-existent and immortal. The truth of God is my truth, unconditioned and eternal. the love of God is my love, complete and perfect now.
Love it. Wonderful. And Catherine, do you have anyone that you're dedicating this to today?
Oh, I'd like to dedicate this to my sisters who are all moms and doing a beautiful job of raising their children as single moms.
Wonderful.
And also to my mother who passed away and made her transition about 6 years ago this month. In fact, my sister and I were talking about her last night, and we really, it just doesn't seem like Mother's Day without her.
Wonderful.
So that's who I'm dedicating my Mother's Day wishes to.
And what I'm knowing,
Mary, for birthing this wonderful ministry.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm wishing you a wonderful Mother's Day. You are a wonderful mother. And I just want to comment about your mom. One thing I do know is that your mom is always with you, and truly a true blessing. So I'm going to spend a little time with your mom today. I just want to remind you, I still have that blanket that you and your mom worked on, and you guys gifted me a couple of them years ago. But you remember the patchwork one you guys did with the kids?
Yes.
And the beautiful picture that sits in my entryway. So I am celebrating with you in honoring all of your beloveds. Thank you. I'm going to go to Patty now. And Patty, what is your reading today?
My reading today, as we move through life, we must accept that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. Accepting that will teach us patience.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that came from?
Acts of faith.
Acts of faith. Now, there was a part in there I wanted to hear too. You were sharing with me, and that was the quote. It was inspired by the quote of who?
Part of what?
It was inspired by the quote from who? What song?
Oh, Grandma's hands used to issue out a warning. Baby, don't you run so fast. There might be snakes in that grass.
I just love that. It brought a beautiful picture, and it warmed my heart again. And that was from Bill Withers. And he just recently crossed over, but it's just a beautiful memory. And you triggered that song in my head. And I think that sometime today I'm going to listen to that song because I think about loved ones who have passed over. I think about my brother. He's probably singing that song to my grandmother right now. So wonderful. So Patty, who are you dedicating today's message to?
I'm dedicating it to my mother and to all my friends who have been excellent parents to their children. And I'm including mothers and fathers.
Okay, wonderful.
Because there have been situations where dad had to step up with the mom. And it triggered a thought in my mind. Some fathers can make better mothers than mothers.
You're right.
We just don't always give them the credit.
Absolutely. You're so right. They can be very gentle, very loving. That's that innate spirit that is in all of us. I so agree. And I just want to honor you for being a nurturing mother. You may never have birthed a child, but you have been a true blessing in so many people's lives. You stepped up to the plate, and I've seen you do it for all the members of your family. When we talk about the elder in the family or the matriarch of the family, we know why they pause and they listen to you and how they dote over you. And I'm going to send a special shout out to Miss Deja, because I know that she loves Aunt Patty. Yes, Aunt Patty. Aunt Patty, she loves you dearly. And for every single person you've shown up for at their most vulnerable moments, we honor
Yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. I'm going to move on now because we're going to hear from our newest member, and that is from Jim.
Good morning again. So, I said I wasn't ready, but you know me, I'm Johnny here. So I found something that it was actually a book I just finished reading, and it's from Emmett Fox, the Find and Use Your Inner Power. And this one's called The Single Eye, and it made me think about it. When we started talking about the listening and the inner heart, it jumped right out. So here goes. True simplicity is the master key of spiritual understanding. This simplicity will be found to inhere in material conditions, but of course, its fundamental root lies in one's mental outlook. Simplicity of thought will naturally be reflected in general simplicity in the way of living and working. The heart that is fixed on many different things is never at peace. And it is the heart at peace that the realization of God comes. Mental simplicity consists of seeing the one presence everywhere in all things. This is the single eye of which Jesus spoke. And if we but cultivate the single eye, all the less important things will automatically fall into place. It is because we are all too involved in external and unimportant details that we are so often overlook the great opportunity. Man will undergo incredible hardships in search of the Holy Grail. But when God puts the chalice to his lips, he too often pushes it roughly away. Again, reminds us to stay in the moment and always present.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that definitely is a representation of parenting. I'm going to say parenting at its highest and its best. Thank you. And that's what we get to do. And I'm going to say, not only just for the people we birthed in the world, but we also get to do for ourselves. So my question to you is, who are you dedicating this Mother's Day to?
Obviously my mother, and it'll be 2 years as of the 4th that she passed on. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it, especially today, because 2 years ago I was with my dad, walking him through the process, if you will. And it was interesting for both of us because we were used to having her around and helping make some of those decisions that all of a sudden now were bequeathed mainly to me because my father was not in a condition or in a space to handle a lot of that, and he dealt with it better as the months have come along. But I will tell you, even to this day, because although I haven't talked to him yet this morning, the phone call's coming. We will talk about Mom. So absolutely.
And in a sense, that was part of her passing the torch to you, because you are now, in a sense, in that role, probably took up the space that she held, and you're in the parenting role. I'm gonna say there is a point when we become our parents or our parents, and then they pass that baton back to us. And we get to be the parent and support and love and nurture them.
The wonderful thing about that is, and you're absolutely right, is that I get to constantly be reminded to be gentle. Always be gentle, not only with him and with others, but myself.
Absolutely.
Remember to be gentle, because you really never know what's going on behind the eyes unless you allow yourself to be those eyes. And you always, always, always be gentle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A wonderful, wonderful moment. And I think that's what that represents for all of us. I'm thinking about my mother and my experience with her. And the reason I do what I do today is because of her. So we continue to carry the torch and share the goodness of life. That's the seed of life. So thank you, Jim. I'm honoring you, and we are with you and your dad today as you guys move through your Mother's Day. experience. And so finally, it's my turn. And oh, wow, there's so much to share. But first of all, I think I want to just acknowledge I'm dedicating this to all the mothers, but I do want to speak the names of those mothering figures in my life. And of course, I want to acknowledge my mother, Rosa. Rose, they used to call her, friends used to call her Rose. And definitely, I close my eyes and I think of her. If you were to look at her picture, she represented a rose. But you know, I do not have her picture. I'm probably going to be finding her picture today. And I need to dedicate this to my grandmother, because if it wasn't for my grandmother, she nurtured the seed of prayer for me. And here's a picture. I'm going to let my leadership see this picture. But here's a picture of my grandmother. I found it. I'm doing some cleaning and purging. And I said, oh, that's grandmother. And so I want to acknowledge my grandmother. And often I quote my grandmother because I know that my grandmother surrounds me all the time. Her favorite biblical quote is, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice within it. And today we get to rejoice today in it. And then in terms of earthly mothers, I have so many earthly mothers. But the one that I really want to acknowledge is my beloved sister. And the reason I'm acknowledging my beloved sister is I'm acknowledging it with gratitude. Last year this time, I was just dancing, and just rejoicing. We have 2 years under our belt for her being cancer-free. And I remember 2 years ago just praying, and just knowing that we're going to move through this situation. I was in gratitude because she had an opportunity to be there for her granddaughter, to be at her granddaughter's wedding. And she says, well, this is my last hurrah of doing something like this. And if you know anything about our family, we love to celebrate. So things have shifted and they have changed. But the most important part is there's something that never has changed, and that is love. And so I have the wonderful, wonderful blessing of being a child that is in many positions. And when I say many positions, I am the youngest. And my sister would say I'm very spoiled. But I came to the conclusion the reason I'm spoiled is because of her. I am the middle child. And the reason I'm the middle child is I am the bridge. And that bridge is between my nieces and my nephews, because I was the youngest child. My brother was 17 years old when I was born. My sister was 12 years old. And of course, the way we were as a family is we participated in the co-parenting process. Well, they did. All of my life, one of them or someone was looking out after me. And I'm most grateful for that. And I learned that. And so I became the eldest in the family also. Because for all of my sister's children, I got to be the big sister. At one point, I always looked forward to going and living with my sister, being the only child. And the reason I was the only child is everybody was out of the household. And sometimes it would get boring. So I'd go and I'd live with her for the summer or for the holiday season. And we just go back and forth. But the thing that I learned was the power of resilience. And my favorite Mother's Day moment would be the moment where my brothers all got together. I was a young adult and they said, we're going to take everybody out to celebrate Mother's Day. So they took everyone. That included grandmother who was visiting. She was on her tour. We used to say grandmother used to do tours. And she'd go check on all of her grandkids and her children and everything. So she was on tour and she was with us. And grandmother gave up going to church. She loved going to church, a Baptist. She loved going to church. She was a Pentecostal, part of the Pentecostal church. She just loved going to church. But she chose to do church with us, and it was out of that space of love. So that's a memory that continues to stay with me. But the most important part that I feel that is the most important part is they taught me, all of these wonderful parenting figures, they taught me the power of listening within. Each one of them in their own way supported me in that personal empowerment. And I love this. I was looking at some of the notes, and there was the reference to The Wizard of Oz and Glinda the Good Witch reminding us that everything we're looking for was right there with us all along. They taught me that, and that is the premise in terms of how I have learned to live my life more and more. My mother used to say, just keep living. And I'm thinking about that, keep living right now, because life teaches us, and it teaches us in so many rich and wonderful ways. But the most important part of that process is learning about that power that dwells within us. Ernest Holmes says the universe holds nothing against us, and that's an important point for us always to remember. He says no matter how many mistakes we have made, we are still perfect beings within, and the within may become the without if we will carefully train ourselves to listen to the inner voice of truth, which speaks to us in our moments of quietness and solitude. So whenever there's a need to really get in tune with yourself, there is power in just being in that space of solitude. The outer world will tell you about all of your imperfections, but the spirit of perfection, it dwells within you. And I love the song Perfect by Jamie Lilla. Everybody knows I love that song. Whenever I've done parenting classes, whenever I needed to bring kids together in my tenure, because that was the legacy my mother gave to me. That's the reason I do youth ministry. Her story and her experience was the part that powered and has driven my experience in this area. And it is to remember the spirit of perfection. He wrote that song for his son and dedicated that song. I continue to use that song over and over again. Sometimes I need to remember, and sometimes I need to gift that to other people. What we get an opportunity to remember as we listen within is we get to understand about the power and the presence that is deep within us. Stephen Covey says, most people do not listen with the intent of understanding. They listen with the intent to reply. So I'm going to invite you today to remember to slow down, to be fully present in the moment. Jim gave a wonderful reading from Emmett Fox. It is about being present in the moment. When you are present in the moment, you discover and you find so many things. Spirit is learning how to be present in the moment right now. Maybe her ears are heightened and she want to give a message to someone out there, her senses. But we're going to trust her in her process and continue on with what we're doing. Isn't that right, Spirit? But we're being in the moment. And that's what our parents often allow for us to do. But I want to share something from Mark Nepo. He says early, this is a story about an experience, a poem that he wrote. And it was about 7,000 Ways to Listen. It comes from that book. He says early on the immensely gifted boy was listening to the waterfall of music, cascading out of the eternal silence while holding off the storm of the world. He kept working his gift as his gift worked him. He kept searching for the still point, not to retreat from life, but from which to engage the music of life more directly. I remember growing up, my parents used to talk about me, those parenting figures would talk about me being in my own world. Sometimes they would say she's having a conversation with herself. They would probably say she's daydreaming or she's just playing within herself. But I was being still with spirit and engaging with spirit. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just being. I want to encourage each and every one of you to be who you've been called to be. So with that in mind right now, I'm going to invite you to turn within, and I'm going to anchor it with these sacred words from Howard Thurman. He says, there is something in every one of us, or every one of you, that waits and listens to the sound of the genuine in yourself. And we're going to give thanks. We're going to let it be. And together we're all going to affirm. And so it is.
It is.
Amen.
So it is. Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you. This is the power of that wonderful presence within you. I'm going to invite you to check us out this week. There's so many wonderful things that are coming down the loop. The most important part I want to remind you of is we're starting our Prosperity 3 class on May 19th. My goal is to really support, and I hope you're listening within right now. That was our lesson today, is to support each and every one of us in terms of retooling. And that retooling will call for us to retreat a little bit from all the rhetoric that's going on in the world right now, telling us there's not enough, we're not going to be able to survive financially. The purpose of the Prosperity Plus 3 is to get you anchored and to move you forward. And if you have anyone in your life that was born, and I think about my grandmother, she was born, and she was part of World War I. She survived that and was able to move through World War II. And she made her transition it was in the 1990s. I think about my mother, and she survived, and she made her transitions in the 90s. So my point to you is that we will move past this. The important part is how we respond and what we do and how we choose to do it. So I hope you heed the words of Stephen Covey about listening with the intent to understand. And I'm going to invite you to join us on May 19th. You will have the information for that. So thank you so much. Have a blessed week. Namaste.